Thank you, Representative. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I've got to tell you, it's a very friendly crowd here tonight. 2 days ago, I had the opportunity of walking from my office in the Romney building over to the Capitol building. One of them was to meet with the great senator here, through about 15,000 of my closest friends. And they were all yelling, "We love Rick! We love Rick!" Not really. But I just kind of pictured that's what they were saying. But it's a real honor to be here. When I got the call, I was honored. I called my wife and said, "Honey, I knew I was going to take you out tonight, but hey, we have 6 kids at home. They're home alone. I mean, they're old enough, but they're home alone." But I said, "We're going to go see a different part of Michigan." And she said, "What's up?" And I told her, I said, "We're going to go down and speak in Coldwater." And so it was a delight to come down here, and it was a treat for me because so far I've only seen Detroit and Lansing. And there are people telling me that there's a lot more to Michigan than Detroit and Lansing. Now, I will tell you, my lovely wife went to high school out here in Michigan. She went to Interlochen Arts Academy up in Traverse City. She's a very accomplished violinist, and she's just a great, great gal. As far as coming down here tonight, let me just kind of start off by telling you what brought me to Michigan. And I really believe it started off with a lot of your hard work at the grassroots level saying, it's time for a change here in this great state. I came from Utah. How many of you have been to Utah? Beautiful place. I loved Utah. I was Governor Herbert's budget director out there. I was serving as Governor Herbert's budget director. Governor Huntsman, who's the ambassador over in China right now, had invited me to, or asked me to come be the budget director about 6 years ago. And I was serving under Governor Herbert. And Governor Herbert had just won the election. Won very, very nicely, and life was good in Utah. My wife and I just purchased a lovely home in Utah, and I thought, life couldn't be better. And then about the middle of November, I got an email from somebody in Michigan saying, I'm putting together the talent team for Governor-elect Snyder. You know, we'd like to talk to you. Now, currently I have the privilege and opportunity of serving as the president of the National Association of State Budget Officers. And so they kind of warned me. They said, we have so many governors changing over, you might get called, you know, to pick your brain and kind of see, you know, some advice on for transition teams. And so I thought that's what this was. But I talked with him the next week, and it became very apparent that they were interested in talking to me about relocating to Michigan. And I thought, you got to be kidding. I love Utah. You know, my sweet wife knows Michigan. I really have only been to Detroit once before in my life. But he said, just come, you know, we want you to be a part of, you know, we want to talk to you. And I said, okay. So I had some dialogue with him, and I talked to a close friend and mentor of mine. Many of you may know him. He's Bill Cederberg, a former senator here in Michigan. He's our Commissioner of Higher Education out in Utah right now. And he said, you really ought to go to Michigan to talk to him, John, because one, it would be a great opportunity for you, but two, you could really help him out. And he said, this last election, they got a message that it's time for a change. And he said, I really think, he watches Michigan about as close as he does Utah. He said, I really think you can have a big impact there. And so I came home, I told my sweet wife, honey, I'm going to fly out there and meet with him. I came out and I met with him, and they started me about 8:30 in the morning and ran me till about midnight. And I met with probably 15 different people through kind of a rigorous interview process. And I was so impressed with all of them that I got really excited about the environment. Everybody I talked to said, we want our state back. We're on the verge of moving forward. The meeting was capped off with dinner with Lieutenant Governor Kelly, and what a phenomenal guy. Very impressive guy. And so I came home and told my wife, I said, I think we're going to move to Michigan, and brought her out the next week, and we sealed the deal. But I want to tell you that I've been out here now for about 3.5 months, and we made the right decision. Because in those 3.5 months, I think more has been done in this state than's been done in a long, long time. Within 6 weeks of hitting the ground here, I flew the red eye out on December 31st, got here on January 1st. And within 6 weeks, we put the end to a decade-long structural deficit in this state with the budget we recommended. We reduced over $1.5 billion in spending. We brought the ongoing budget into balance not only in fiscal year 10, but also in fiscal year 13, or not only in fiscal year 12, but in fiscal year 13, with no one-time money and with no gimmicks. And I think that's pretty telling of what we've been able to do. Not only have we done that, but we've taken a look at our long-term liabilities, our post-retirement health care. This state has a $54 billion liability, not just state government, but all the local governments as well. Other states aren't even talking about this right now. We set aside in our budget $200 million of general fund to start to pay down that liability. By just starting to make a payment on that credit card, so to say, it drops the liability to the state by over $5 billion. And we're excited about what we're doing. We think we're off to some great things. Now, Governor Snyder is a very impressive guy, and really is the reason I'm here. Working for him is a real treat. The guy is the smartest guy I've ever met, and I'm not just saying that because he's my boss. But he's a genius. And I'll tell you what, we've been able to go in there, and when he says he wants to hit the reset button, we've hit the reset button. And there's been a lot of people we made uncomfortable going into these discussions and building a budget from the ground up based upon solid financial principles. Okay? We wanted to make sure, and we were making the right decisions. Now, I know that the decisions we made are tough. I know that they affect a lot of people. But I'll tell you, the view that Governor Snyder has and the vision that Governor Snyder has for this state, this budget is a key first step in achieving that long-term vision. And that's really to make Michigan a state where people need to be and people want to be. As he mentioned in his State of the State address, job one is jobs. And the first step, we believe, in getting jobs to this state is bringing predictability to our budget and to our tax system. And so as we put together our budget, we thought it was very critical as you have $1.5 billion deficit. And I'm new to Michigan, but the people who have been in my budget office for over 20 years have told me for the last 10 they've had a perpetual $1.5 billion budget gap. And as long as you have that budget gap, companies aren't going to want to move or expand to Michigan because they are the folks who pay the bills, the companies and the taxpayers here in Michigan. So the first step was to get the budget into balance. Now, I'll tell you what, there are very few states who are going to be able to achieve a balanced budget this year with no one-time money, no one-time solutions. Most of the states are just trying to get their budget balanced in the year, not even looking ahead. And the first goal was to get the budget into balance and get a tax structure in place that really set up a solid foundation for this state moving forward. And I know there's been a lot of discussion on that tax plan. We're reaching compromise with the legislature. As all legislation happens, we come out with our proposal. This governor's very bright, and he's got a great team around him, and I feel privileged to be a part of it. But going to the legislature, you just make things better. And you negotiate and work through these processes. And at the end of the day, you get legislation that you hope is and primarily is in the best interest of the taxpayers. And I think that's what we're reaching here as we negotiate that with the legislature. We're now turning to the budget. We're not done with the tax plan either. And we're not done with the budget. We still have a lot of work to do. But we really believe that by having a tax structure that creates a stable environment for corporations and businesses and entrepreneurs and current companies that are here to grow and expand and want to invest in Michigan, we'll start to see job growth. And by changing the tax structure to where those who are benefiting from the services government provides will be able to create a solid structure going forward. What I'm finding a lot in the system is there are a lot of areas where you have structural problems. And Michigan has been a state for the last decade where we haven't had the money to do things we've wanted to do. So unfortunately, we've done them anyway and said we'll figure out how to deal with them down the road. And what we're bringing into the governor's office, and we're working very cooperatively with the legislature, is to say we want to start paying for the decisions we're making today. We want to start paying for them today. And I know that that's a novel concept with government, but that's what we're doing. And we really have some key goals out there. We're working very closely with Representative Kurtz here, Senator Caswell. They're part of the team to move this thing forward.